I joked about our open relationship during a client pitch. He stood up and then, "Hey everyone, I know this isn't my usual makeup and fashion content, but I'm really in a hard spot right now. I could do with some advice." My husband Matt, male 27, and I, female 28, have run a business together for the past 5 years. We had an idea when we were a little younger about running an online clothing business. We were newly married and kind of broke, to be honest. We just begged the bank for a loan and started without really thinking too hard about it. It took 2 years for the business to really boom. All it took was one viral TikTok, really. Business has been good so far. About a month ago, our brand got featured in a magazine. They named us as #1 for sports clothes. We make all kinds of clothes, really, but they said that our sports clothes could compete with some of the biggest names in the industry. When the article came out, Matt and I were so excited. It felt like all our dreams were finally coming true. It felt like a massive win against those people who said we'd never make it. Our good luck didn't end there. 2 days after that article went out, we got an email. It was from the management team of an athlete who was interested in being the face of our brand. I obviously can't say his name for privacy reasons, so let's call him Mark, male 23. Mark was a soccer player who had spent years in Europe playing for some big club over there. He didn't even go to college. He went pro fresh out of high school. That's how good he was. Notice how I said was, though. About a year and a half ago, Mark had an injury. A really bad one. Someone tackled him, and he snapped a ligament in his knee. The doctors didn't even know if he was ever going to walk again, so soccer was basically ruled out for him. Against all odds, Mark did walk again. Not only did he walk, he's playing soccer again. Unfortunately, he isn't as good as he used to be. The team in Europe let him go out of nowhere. A team in the US got him, and he's been playing okay for them. The thing is, nobody thinks he's ever going to be the player he once was. The media has moved on and found another golden boy to obsess over. Mark doesn't like that. His management team told us that he's looking to get back in the limelight. He wants a brand that can offer him some value. We didn't waste any time. We immediately replied that we'd be honored to have Mark be the face of our brand. We set up a client pitch. As I said, we were very excited. We called together our sales team and started putting in the work immediately. There was so much to do and so little time to do it. Everything had to be perfect if we wanted Mark to sign on for us. Because we were so caught up trying to make everything perfect, Matt and I didn't really hang out much. I mean, we work and live together, but we spent the whole month just talking about work. We barely spent time with each other without bringing up the potential deal. I noticed that we started to drift apart. Matt didn't. He was so obsessed with making sure that Mark signed on that he didn't even notice that I was moody from the lack of attention. A week ago, Mark's team reached out again. They told us that Mark was going to come down to our state for a little mini vacation. They wanted us to make him feel welcome until they came in later. Matt saw this as the perfect opportunity to win Mark over even before the pitch. He made a decision that I would show Mark around the city while he stayed back with our team to keep working on the pitch. I didn't like the fact that I had to be the one to do it. Matt basically made the decision without asking me how I felt. I mean, who wants to babysit a 23-year-old for a week just so he'd sign a piece of paper? I still followed through. I knew it was for the good of the company. On the day I was supposed to pick Mark up from the airport, Matt and I got into a fight. He told me that he could tell I wasn't happy doing this. I just exploded on him. He exploded back. All the stress from planning a perfect pitch just caught up with us. We both said things we regret. By the time I got into my car to go to the airport, I was seething. You can already guess that when Mark's flight landed, I wasn't in the best of moods. My anger disappeared when I saw Mark from afar. The pictures don't do him justice. That man is beautiful, carved from marble beautiful, Greek god beautiful. He was just wearing a hoodie and shorts, but it might as well have been an Armani suit the way he was rocking it. And he didn't only have that effect on me. As he passed through the crowd, people stopped and stared. Like openly stared. Soccer isn't the biggest deal in the US, especially in my state, so I knew they didn't recognize him. He was just so beautiful, they had to admire him. When he finally made his way over to me, I was tongue-tied. He said my name in this sexy European accent, and my knees almost buckled. He was straight out of a romance novel. I only spoke when Mark raised his eyebrows at me. I realized he had been talking the whole time. I hadn't noticed. I was too busy staring at him. I quickly apologized and led him to my car. We spent the whole day together. I know I said we lived in the city, but our city isn't cool like New York or Chicago. The only place to do anything fun is downtown, so that's where I took him. A few people recognized him in public and asked for pictures. He was very polite and respectful when he talked with his fans. I felt my heart swell as I watched him. Handsome and a gentleman. I liked that. We didn't talk about the pitch coming up once. We talked about Europe instead. He told me where he's from, but I don't really remember right now. We talked about art and politics and culture, all the things I couldn't talk about with Matt. It felt nice to speak with someone who appreciated these things as much as I did. He was very easy to talk to and a great listener. By the time we were having a late lunch, I got the feeling that I could talk to him for hours and not run out of topics. He paid for dinner. He charmed the waitress into giving us a free dessert. I could tell that everyone in the restaurant was drooling at him. Our waitress certainly was. Yet all his attention was on me. I felt special in a way that Matt hasn't made me feel in a while. After dinner, I took him for a little walk in the park close to our house. I apologized and explained that we're a relatively small company, so we couldn't afford a welcoming committee. His eyes sparkled as he laughed it off. He told me that I was more than enough. I couldn't help myself. I kissed him. I half expected him to push me off, but he did the opposite. He pulled me closer, deepening our kiss. I have no excuse. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't on any substance. He was there, looking very handsome, and I just couldn't help myself. We didn't do anything that night. I just kissed him goodnight at the hotel he was staying at. I gave him my phone number. That same night, he sent me a text, telling me that he couldn't stop thinking about me. I admit, it felt nice to be wanted. It felt nice to be desired. I did feel bad lying to Matt. I do want to make something clear. I do love Matt. I just think the spark fizzled out at some point. Maybe this was a way to get that back. I started thinking of having an open relationship. I knew what it was. Matt and I had a few friends who were open. They had told us before that their marriage has never been stronger. The only problem was Matt always thought that open relationships were just an excuse to cheat. I used to think the same thing, but seeing Mark and instantly falling for him while still loving Matt changed my mind a little. Maybe this open relationship thing could work for us? The next morning, Matt told me that I was supposed to keep Mark company again. This time, I didn't feel sad or disappointed. I wanted to spend as much time with Mark as possible. He'd eventually have to leave, so I wanted to just enjoy being around him as long as I could. Mark and I spent the day watching movies, literally the whole day. Not those stupid action movies I have to watch when I'm with Matt, but actual films. Mark knew everything about all the films we watched. He'd whisper fun facts and jokes into my ear, making me giggle. We probably looked like lovesick teenagers to everyone in the cinema. In the cinema, we kissed a lot. Every time the lights dimmed, we'd kiss. Every time they brightened, we'd break apart. It was fun. It didn't feel heavy on my conscience. Later that day, as Mark was walking me home, I asked him about his love life. He just shrugged and told me that he has had many girlfriends, but none of them stick around longer than a few months. That's when I started fantasizing about being in a relationship with Mark. I imagined spending the off-season with him and then coming back home to spend the season with Matt. I imagined getting flown out and being introduced as a wag, but still having a husband that loved me. I knew instantly that was the life I wanted. That evening, Mark and I slept together. It was great. We did things that Matt and I normally would never do. He was very generous and loving too. When I got home, I knew what I wanted. I wanted Matt. I also wanted Mark. I wanted them both. The next morning, I brought up the topic of an open marriage to Matt. Matt frowned and said he hated the idea. He said he couldn't stand the thought of sleeping with someone else while in a committed relationship with me. When I asked how it'd feel if I was the one sleeping with other people, his face fell. He asked me if I was seeing other people. The lie came out before I could stop it. I told him that I could never cheat on him. I told him I loved him. At least that part was true. This seemed to get Matt to calm down, but he didn't shut up about how much he hated open relationships the whole day. Meanwhile, Mark was blowing up my phone. He was telling me how desperate he was to see me again. Like I said, I wanted them both. I decided that I was going to have them both, no matter what Matt said. After a while, when he saw how happy I was with Mark, he would come around to the idea. He said he loved me and always wanted to make me happy. This arrangement was one of the ways to make me happy. I decided that I was going to keep this relationship with Mark going. I just had to keep it under wraps for a while until I could get Matt to agree to the open marriage thing. I did this successfully for the next few days. I would show Mark around the city during the day, sleep with him in the evenings, then come home to my wonderful husband at night. It was perfect for me. I was getting the best of both worlds, the excited of something new with Mark, and the safety of a nice marriage with Matt. I even made some progress with the open marriage discussion with Matt. Remember the friends I talked about that are in an open marriage? Well, I invited them for dinner the night before the client pitch with Mark. They are Bart, male, 29, and Alicia, female, 28. When Matt was in the living room putting on some music, I lied and told them that Matt and I were considering being open too. I told them that Matt still had some doubts and was very sensitive on the topic. I asked if they could help him see reason without being too forward. They agreed immediately. They were very excited. When the dinner began, they started talking about the different people they were seeing and how much their relationship has been strengthened since they opened their marriage. Slowly, over dinner, they managed to get Matt to admit that when a couple had been together so long, they lost their spark. They also got him to agree that excitement was important in every relationship, but especially in long-standing ones. By the time we told them goodbye, I could tell that Matt had softened on the topic a little, so I brought it up again. Matt admitted that the spark in our relationship was gone. He said he still loved me, but to him, the initial excitement was gone. That was all the permission I needed. I opened my mouth to tell him all about Mark and the growing relationship we had. I never did. The minute I was about to tell him, our head salesperson called us about some last-minute corrections. We instantly got into work mode. We spent the next hour trying to get the pitch presentation perfect. By the time I remembered, we were about to go to bed. I decided to just talk about it the next day after the meeting. If I had known how badly the meeting would go, I would just have told him then. The next day, by 8 a.m, Matt and I were getting ready for the pitch. We kept running through our lines trying to memorize everything. We couldn't afford to mess this up. Finally, by 9, Mark and his team joined us. Mark looked so handsome as he shook hands with all of us. All I wanted to do was kiss him senseless, but I didn't want to do that before Matt and I had a conversation. Mark looked surprised when I introduced Matt as my husband. At the time, I just assumed that he didn't think Matt would look nothing like him. Really, they look nothing alike. The meeting went without any problems. Mark really liked what we were offering. He liked the clothes too. He agreed to make a video with our clothes once a week and also announced the partnership on his social media. I was really relieved that Mark agreed. We got some benefits out of it too. We estimated an enormous boost in sales with him as the face of our brand. The meeting ended and everyone was in high spirits. Mark's team dropped the professional talk and started joking around with us. We joked back. It was nice. Everyone was talking and laughing. At some point, a lady on Mark's team referred to Mark as pretty boy. Everyone laughed, even Mark. That's when I decided to tell the joke that would ruin my marriage and my life. I said, I know, right? Thank God Matt and I are open. Everyone chuckled at first. Then they glanced at my husband. He was not chuckling. He was angrily getting up from his chair. He called me a bitch right to my face and stormed out of the office. The entire room was silent. My team and Mark's team kept avoiding eye contact with me. They were either staring at the floor or looking at each other nervously. It was like all that light energy from earlier had been sucked from the room. Only Mark was looking at me, completely emotionless. Mark's team started leaving soon after that. My team got out of there as soon as they could. Only Mark was left in the room with me after 5 minutes. He didn't look happy. When I asked him if anything was wrong, he asked me why I never told him I was married. I was floored. I couldn't believe that I hadn't told him. I must have, right? Mark told me that he couldn't stand cheaters, and if he knew I was married, he never would have kissed me back. I tried to lie and say that we were open. Mark just laughed. He asked if that's why my husband called me a bitch. I had nothing to say to that. Mark said we were over. He left. I never saw him again. I spent the whole drive back to our house just sad. I hadn't had the conversation with Matt yet. I knew that. I could have just kept my mouth shut until this evening. I'm sure Matt would have come around. When I got home, Matt wasn't there. I tried calling him 5 times, but all my calls went straight to voicemail. So either he was ignoring me or he had blocked me. Either way, I wasn't able to talk to him, and I had no idea where he was. At least all his clothes and stuff were still here. That means he hasn't left me. Yet. I called all our friends. None of them knew where he was. I called his mom. He wasn't at her house. I asked her to call me if he showed up there. From the way she spoke, it was obvious she didn't know anything about the Mark situation. I wasn't ready to drive around town looking for him. There was nothing I could do except wait for him. I waited a long time. Matt didn't get back until late at night. I was asleep on the couch when he came in. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Matt had a signature cologne, very musky and masculine. He didn't smell like that. He smelled like a woman. He saw me on the couch and just walked past me. I followed him upstairs and asked where he had been. Without turning to me, he told me that it was none of my business where he was. I told him that it was my business because he was my husband. That's when he finally turned to me. He told me that I wasn't his wife anymore. I asked what he meant by that. He told me that Mark told him that we had slept together. I was speechless. Eventually, Matt told me that I had 2 days to get out of the house. He was kicking me out. That was 2 days ago. I'm supposed to be fully moved out by tonight, but I don't want to do that. Matt has been pretending I don't exist. He made me sleep in our guest room and doesn't even act like he misses me. That's why I came here. I need advice on how to explain to my husband that I only cheated to get some excitement back into our marriage. How do I explain that I was going to propose an open marriage so the Mark thing doesn't even matter? Please be nice. I'm just in a really tough spot here. Comments. You can't propose an open marriage after you've already cheated. It goes against the entire principle of open marriages. You know, both of you agreeing to it. You've already cheated, lady. Just take your L and move on. Update, 1 month later. Hey, everyone. I'm here with the update post you all probably expected. But first, all of you in the comments were very unhelpful. Not one person gave me actual advice. In fact, most of you insulted me instead, so thanks for that. Now, to the actual update. The evening I was supposed to move out, I didn't. Instead, I waited for Matt to come home from work. I had dinner on the table, roast potatoes and steak, his favorite. I had some candles lit and music playing. It was all very romantic. I decided to just suck up my pride and not try to explain anything. I wouldn't give excuses and just straight up apologize. I even wrote it down. I never got to say it. Matt came in sometime by 7. He saw the food on the table and asked whether we were celebrating me moving out. My heart broke when I heard that, but I tried not to let it show. We sat down and had a nice dinner. I tried looking for the perfect time to say my apology, but no time felt right. After Matt finished eating, he stood up very suddenly. He told me something that shook me to the core. He said he had divorce papers for me to sign. I was shocked. Matt and I had been together for so long, I couldn't imagine my life without him. I immediately started begging. I was past the point of shame. I didn't even care about Mark. I didn't care about the stupid spark. I just wanted Matt. All of him. I told him I would never cheat again. I would never even bring up the idea of us being open. But Matt wasn't hearing it. He grabbed me and carried me bridal style out of the house, dumping me on our front porch. He then slammed the door behind him and locked it. I started banging on the door, hoping he'll let me in. He didn't. After like 30 minutes, I got a text from him. It said, "Your stuff is outside by the back door." I ran behind our house to see that all my things had been dumped in our back garden. Matt himself was at the door, smirking at me. I was so angry at him, so angry. He didn't even let me get my apology out. I ended up calling Alicia and Bart to come pick me up. I don't have family in the U.S., so I couldn't call my parents or siblings. Bart and Alicia picked me up and drove me over to their place. They let me sleep in their guest room that night. In the middle of the night, I woke up to Bart yelling at somebody over the phone. When I listened some more, I realized that Bart was yelling at Matt. I was happy that at least somebody was laying into him. On the other end, Matt said something that made Bart keep quiet. When he spoke again, he was calmer. I went back to sleep after that. The next day, at breakfast, Bart and Alicia were weird. They wouldn't look at me, and they kept having conversations with their eyes. After a while, I had enough. I asked them why they were being strange. Alicia asked me if I had cheated on Matt. I couldn't really lie. I told them yes. They didn't like that. Even when I explained how I was going to try and get us into an open marriage like theirs, They still had those serious looks on their faces. Bart and Alicia explained that cheating first before telling my husband I wanted an open marriage was still cheating. They told me that they both talked to each other and had an open, honest conversation before becoming open. We had a long, hard conversation. They were very disappointed in me. They said that Matt was their friend too, and it would be wrong of them to have the person that hurt their friend living in their house. I was out of the house in an hour. The next big shock came when I opened the door of my hotel room to see Matt there. I tried to hug him, but he just pushed me off him. He dumped 2 envelopes in my hand and walked off. The first envelope had divorce papers from Matt's lawyer. The second was from Mark. My heart jumped a bit, only to be broken. It was an NDA and a cease and desist. I was heartbroken. The men that I wanted a future with both didn't want me anymore. My friends had kicked me out of their home. My husband had kicked me out of our home. In time, my heartbreak turned to anger. I was angry at Bart. I was angry at Alicia. I was angry at Mark. I was angry at the lady that called Mark pretty at the client pitch. I was angry at myself. But most of all, I was angry at Matt. I made up my mind to confront him. The next day, I showed up at our office. I knew it was the only place that Matt would listen to me because he wouldn't want to cause a scene. I hadn't been to work since the client pitch meeting, so everyone was surprised to see me. I marched straight into Matt's office. When I opened the door, I was shocked. Matt was at his desk, with another woman in his lap. They both looked up when they saw me, but neither of them looked worried. I think I popped a blood vessel from how loud I started yelling. It was only when I stopped yelling for a bit that I realized I knew her. She was Matt's ex. That got me yelling again. I got right up in her face, and that's when I smelled it. The perfume. It was the same one that Matt had all over him that night he got home late. I turned to him and asked if he was with her that night. He smiled and said yes. He said they slept together. I lunged at the ex. Read it, I will be honest here. She whooped my behind, like badly. Matt watched it all go down for a while before he called in security to separate us. I was eventually escorted out of the building and told never to come back by the security guys. I only laughed at that. I told them I owned the company. I could come in any time. The security guys smiled and handed me another envelope. I tore it open right in front of them. I'm going to skip all the business stuff and just say it in a way that all of you will understand. He social networked me. Yeah, you heard that right. My husband and business partner pulled a Mark Zuckerberg on me and decided to reduce my shares in the company. That was roughly 1 month ago. Right now, Matt and I are in the middle of a very difficult divorce. He's contesting me for everything, even things that are mine. He wants my car, the house, and spousal support. I'm really happy we don't have kids right now because I just know he would have made me pay child support. So far, my lawyer says that we don't really have a strong case. Matt was the one cheated on, and according to his lawyers, abused. The judges are usually more sympathetic to that kind of thing. The final hearing was 2 days ago, and the judge granted him everything he wanted. He's left me with basically nothing. I signed the NDA and cease and desist from Mark. It hurt, but I knew that pursuing him would get me nowhere. Matt has officially moved in with his ex. The house that he wanted so badly is empty right now. I don't know why he didn't just let me have it. But whatever. As for the company, I've basically been shoved off. Matt reduced my shares like crazy. I think down to 5% all the way from 30%. We've been in a legal battle, but that all ended last week. Matt's team cited harassment of clients as a big reason for me being removed. Mark even sent a letter in to testify to this. Unknown to me, that night Matt came home late and slept with his ex. He also sold some of his shares to her. He did this way before he reduced mine. So from the outside looking in, it looks like I attacked a fellow shareholder of the company. Long story short, I've lost the company. Matt has the most shares in it, along with his ex. I've been living from hotel to hotel for a month now, and it had taken a serious toll on my mental health. I've never really had many friends, and the few I had all took Matt's side. I'm writing this update because I need some advice again. Is there a way I can get revenge on Matt? I don't even think I'm in love with him anymore. I just want payback. I know I cheated first, but I think I've been punished enough. Anything you have for me is appreciated. If you guys help me out, I could actually come out on top in this messed up situation. Comments. You want payback? Are you dumb? You destroyed your marriage and your husband's trust, and you want payback? Good on Mark for dumping you. He dodged a huge bullet.